Om. One of the greatest obstacles faced by a sadhaka, according to Paramapuji Papa, is the lack of control on anger. When the all-loving Lord makes the sadhaka aware of this, he or she starts slowly analyzing the cause of anger welling up in the mind. Initially, one may not get the answer. However, the intense desire to control this emotion leads to the diagnosis that the cause of anger is the dominance of me and mine appearing in the form of rights and wrongs, likes and dislikes, preferences, priorities, preconceived notions, cravings, and the like. The aspirant's perseverance to get over the roadblock motivates him or her to get in touch with a Mahatma in whom absence of anger is clearly seen. When, thus, the sadhaka intensely seeks guidance, the Mahatma, based on his own experience, prescribes a technique for gradually effacing the me and mine by expanding the love circle and erasing the sense of otherness. Beloved Papa says, anger means lack of love. When divine love reveals itself in your heart, there is no room for anger. Anger is due to a feeling of distrust or dislike or a kind of jealousy or malaise. When love reigns supreme, you become patient, kind, and loving towards everybody. People may blame you and try to do you harm without any reason. But you give them only love in return. You never hate them. There is no more in you the spirit of retaliation. The feeling of anger keeps your mind hot, as if you are actually burning inside. Now, coming to the main content of overcoming anger by Swami Ramdas. The first thing Ramdas was struggling was against anger. That is the worst enemy of man. There is reason at the back of it. The individual sense is, of course, responsible for it. You may have read that we should be free from lust and wrath. Lust is at the bottom of all the mischief. If we free ourselves from lust, then wrath will leave us. When wrath is not there, our mind will be perfectly peaceful. Ramdas found anger was trying to get a firm hold on him. So he prayed to God to free him from it. As a sort of discipline, he used to have in the room in which he lived small placards on which were written, "Do not get angry." He used to look at them and would be at once quiet. He was asking God to give him strength to resist anger. Simply writing the words on the placard won't do. You must get strength from God. For about 6 months, he had absolutely no anger, even under great provocation. There was enough cause for provocation as people about him did not agree with him in any way. They remonstrated with him and found fault with everything Ramdas did. Ramdas, however, remained perfectly calm and serene. It continued for 6 months. After 6 months, some talk, which was not very palatable, made him burst into anger. But he did not speak anything. It came like a small wave, and the whole body was burning. He rolled on the ground in terrible pain. After some time, he got up and sat when the devil left him. That was the last attack of anger, and it never came again. So, God made him triumph over anger. He was repeating at the time, Om Sriram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om means the supreme Godhead. Sri is the power of God. And Ram is the personal God. Jai means victory to him. Okay. We must conquer all the forces of darkness in us and purify our heart through and through. Then alone victory is complete within us. When Ramdas was chanting God's name, asking him to be victorious over all forces of darkness within, he was crying day and night to God, and God finally became victorious. Beloved Papa Swami Ramdas giving answers to devotees. One devotee comes and asks Papa, can you tell us something as how to get rid of anger and the various other obstacles on the path? Papa answers, the mind is difficult to deal with. When you sit for prayers, your mind goes here and there without concentrating on God. Your prayers seem to be fruitless because when you pray to God, your mind is not in tune with Him. And you can get peace only when in union with Him. This is true of all human beings. Some people do not strive to get this peace by communing with God. But they think that they can get it by acquiring so many things of the world. They come to know later that none of these things can give them the peace they are after. The secret of peace lies in our uniting ourselves with God. Because God is an ocean of peace. If we are united with Him, that peace which is God's becomes ours. He pours Himself into us and gives us the experience of that everlasting peace. In the early days, Ramdas was repeating God's name constantly and was trying to drive away from the mind all those undesirable thoughts that were obstacles to his spiritual progress. He became gentle to everybody. He would not get angry or quarrel with anybody under any provocation. He curbed himself as much as he could by praying to God to give him power to withstand all temptations. If we are true to God within us, we must have the patience to bear everything calmly and should never get angry. Ramdas used to write on the walls, do not get angry. Whenever any occasion arose, he used to look at this writing and at once the anger would subside. Devotee asks, do you feel that under no provocation you will get angry? Ramdas replies, do you want to try? It does not mean that Ramdas does not get angry. When some wrong thing is done in his absence by which the person is harming himself, Ramdas tells him not to do such things. But when one deliberately tries to provoke him or make experiments on him, he will never get provoked. Even when Ramdas is seemingly concerned with people, he is inwardly unruffled. Devotee asks the next question, how about suppressing anger? Papa answers, if you suppress anger, it will come out again with greater fury. Certain people will practice suppress anger and do not get easily disturbed. If their practice becomes slack, at once the mind flares out. It becomes something like a volcano. So sometimes they are very calm, and at other times very violent. That is why deliberate suppression is said to be bad. Anger comes to us because we lose contact with God. When we keep constant contact with God, there is no room for us to be angry. That is how we watch our mind and see how we can eliminate evil thoughts by substituting good thoughts. Good thoughts are God thoughts. When we fill the mind with God thoughts, other thoughts will naturally disappear. Lower desires, anger, and malice will not have anything to do with us and will disappear completely from the mind. If we go on constantly remembering God, it will take us to the natural state where we have no fear of any lower desires or passions. Now our mind is always calm and tranquil because God has taken us and we will live according to His guidance. It's coming to the words of Pujji Mataji Krishnabai. Mataji says, O infinite Papa, it was my nature to weep whenever I was pained at heart and to beat my children severely if they turned naughty and did not obey me. Anusuyaka's sister, being unable to put up with this behavior of mine, complained to you about it. O compassionate Papa, you then advised me in these words. If you have real love for Ramdas, you should not beat your children in future. Know this, when you beat them, you are really beating Ramdas himself. You further instructed me, Papa, saying that from now onwards, give up reading the scriptures. Ekanath, Bhagavat, and Naneshwari. Stop your daily worship and also the use of the rosary for japa. These religious practices are gone through with the object of loving all beings and creatures alike. In spite of you are observing this routine, you are not able to control and give up anger. Then, what is the use of all? Therefore, in future, keep only Ram Nam on your tongue and regard everybody as Ram. And the service you render to anybody as a service and worship of Ram. Never display any scorn or anger towards anyone, lest such an act of yours should recoil on you. It is only Papa who is in the hearts of all. If you scorn anyone or get angry with anyone, you are doing so to Papa alone. Coming to the words of Puji Swami Sadanand, you must have noticed that usually we lose our temper when somebody makes some mistake or does something against our wishes. If the other person is elderly or above our status, we usually do not lose our temper. But we do so only with others who are considered junior or below our status. So if we have to practice to look upon everyone as different forms of beloved Papa himself, and therefore worthy of veneration. If this attitude is maintained, you will be free from your anger, whatever may be the faults committed by others. From this, again, constant chanting of Ram Nam is the only way. You can also take upon yourself some punishment whenever you make the mistake of losing your temper. As soon as you realize that you have lost your temper, you must sit somewhere quietly and chant Ram Nam 1,000 times, or miss the next meal, or touch the feet of the person with whom you got angry and ask pardon. This practice will remind you at the proper time that you should control yourself and not lose your temper. Next, amazing talks by Dada Reverend J.P. Vaswani. The topic is anger burns you. Dada J.P. Vaswani speaks. Anger is a wildfire, a forest fire which spreads from shrub to shrub, from tree to tree, consuming everything. Anger creates a chain reaction. Someone gets mad at me, I must take it out on someone else. Otherwise, it will keep on seething within me and the chain reaction goes on. When we get angry, we may not harm the person with whom we are angry, but we are definitely harming ourselves. It was Buddha who said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. When a person gets angry, he activates certain glands in the body. This leads to an outpouring of adrenaline and other stress hormones with noticeable physical consequences. The face reddens, blood pressure increases, the voice rises to a higher pitch, and breathing becomes faster and deeper. The heartbeats become harder, and the muscles of the arm and legs tighten. The body moves to an excited state. If a man is given to anger, all these processes are repeated again and again, and the man is surely heading towards serious health problems. It is therefore in your own interest that you learn to control, or in any case, reduce your anger. Have you ever asked yourself, what is the root cause of anger? At the root cause of all anger is self-will. I wanted a particular dish for my dinner. If I find that something different has been made, I lose my temper. If only I can understand that everything happens according to the will of God, and in the will of God is man's highest good, I will not be angry. I will learn to accept everything. This happens through practice of daily silence. Every day sit in silence, explain to yourself that not a leaf stirs except it be the will of God. To appearances may be to the contrary. Through practice, I will arrive at a stage of stability where nothing will upset me and make me angry. Next, coming to the talks of Peace Pilgrim on the anger habit. Tremendous energy comes with anger. It's sometimes called the anger energy. Do not suppress it. That would hurt you inside. Do not express it. This would not only hurt you inside, it would cause ripples in your surroundings. What you do is transform it. You somehow use that tremendous energy constructively on a task that needs to be done, or in a beneficial form of exercise. The best way to talk to you about this is to tell you what some people actually did. For instance, one woman washed all the windows in the house. Another woman vacuumed the house, whether it needed it or not. And another baked bread, nice, whole grain bread. Another one sat down and played the piano. Wild marches at first. Then she cooled down and played gentle things like hymns and lullabies. And then I knew she was all right. There was a man who got out his manual lawnmower. Remember, the manual lawnmower has no motor. You may never have seen one. And he mowed his big lawn. I was staying next door to him. Then one day he came over and borrowed his neighbor's power lawnmower. I spoke to him about it and he said, "Oh, without the anger energy, I could never mow that big lawn with a manual lawnmower." You see, it's really a tremendous energy. For example, people who lose their temper very fast, let us say, can do constructive tasks like, let us say, singing, or more constructive tasks like doing the carpentry work. Then there was this man who saved his marriage. He had such a bad temper that his young wife was about to leave him and take their two small children along. And he said, "I'm going to do something about this." And he did. Whenever he felt a temper tantrum coming on, instead of throwing things all over the house, which had been his precious custom, he got out there and jogged round and round the block until he was all out of breath and the energy was all gone, and he saved his marriage. It worked. I saw him again years later and I asked him, "Well, are you still jogging?" The man replied, "Oh, a little bit for exercise," he said. "But I haven't had a temper tantrum for years." As you use the energy constructively, you lose the anger habit. These techniques have also worked with children. I recall one 10-year-old boy. I was trying to help his mother because she was having an awful time with him. He got temper tantrums, and one time when he was not having a tantrum, I asked him, Of all things you do, what takes the most of the energy? He said, I guess running up the hill in the back of the house. And so we found a wonderful solution. Every time his mother saw the sign of a temper tantrum, she would push him out of the door and say, go run up the hill. It worked so well that when a teacher told me she was having a similar problem with a boy about the same age, I suggested she tell him to run around the schoolhouse, and that worked too. Next wonderful talk by Sant Ekanath Ishwaran, saying dissipate anger with mantram. An angry person is allowing power to rise in him, rise against him, and enslave him. But when he learns to control this tremendous source of power, he can use it to meet any challenge and to make his greatest contribution to those around him. Here it is that I value Gandhi's example very much, because it shows that we all have the choice to undertake this transformation ourselves. This was pointed out with keen insight by the compassionate Buddha. When people used to go to him complaining that they were upset, telling him, our children upset us, our partner agitates us, his simple reply would be, you are not upset because of your children or your partner. You are upset because you are upsettable. The choice is ours to make ourselves upsettable. Don't wait until anger has become rage. The simple solution I would suggest to the problem of anger is repetition of the mantram. This is how we can become slow to anger and quick to forgive. Do not wait until you have developed a full-blown rage. When judgment is clouded and the mind is heaving up and down, it will be very difficult to hang on to the mantram then, or even to remember it. Try to remember the mantram as soon as you feel anger beginning to rise. When the first storm warnings are out, if possible, go out for a fast walk repeating the mantra. I need hardly add here that you are much more likely to remember the mantra at times like this if you have been using it regularly throughout your day. Even if you can't, remember the mantra when you are angry. You can always use it when you are resentful. Instead of repeating the same old resentment over and over, substitute the holy name. I believe that it was Thomas Jefferson who said, when you are angry, count to 10 before you speak. I would say, when you are angry, repeat the mantra 10 times before you speak. When you are angry, repeat it 100 times. And when you're resentful, just keep on repeating it as long as you can. Next talk is by Swami Shivanandaji, the topic being sadhana for controlling anger. Anger destroys all spiritual merits in a moment. It is all consuming and all polluting, a great enemy of peace, and a great gateway to hell. An aspirant must control this anger if he wishes to progress on the spiritual path and attain happiness. Develop patience to a considerable extent. People lose their temper when they become impatient. Allow the mind to dwell constantly on the opposite virtue of anger. patience. This is the Pratipaksha Bhavana method of Raja yogis. Try to control first the small ripple of irritability when it arises in the subconscious mind. Nip it in the bud. Do not allow it to assume the big form of the wave. When you're not able to control anger, leave the place at once and take a walk chanting Om. Drink some cold water. Count 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 20. Repeat Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Do not argue much. Do not retort. Speak sweetly. Speak only measured words. If anyone abuses or insults, keep quiet. Identify yourself with Atman. Atman is the same in all. It can never be hurt or insulted. Do not give vent to anger. Be regular in your japa, meditation, and kirtan. This will give you great inner spiritual strength. Do we have time?
Sriram, you have exactly 2.5 minutes.
Oh, sure. Okay. One small article by Swami Tejomayanandaji, Drop the Poison of Anger. Anger is a universal problem from time immemorial, the world over. Children, youngsters, adults, even spiritual seekers suffer from it. Anger is dangerous and harmful for ourselves as well as others. It makes us say and do things which we later regret. It reduces our efficiency and effectiveness. Superficially, we say anger is bad. It makes one suffer, does not help. But we are not committed to its removal. We can get rid of it only when our understanding is deep and intense. Why should we carry something within us that is destructive and causes misery? Drop it. Why keep it? For example, you are about to drink a glass of milk. As you lift it up to your lips, before the first sip, someone says it has poison. How do you react? Will you not instantly get rid of the milk? Similarly, when we deeply understand the harm anger does and also develop value for a peaceful mind, we will instantly drop it. We get angry when the ego is hurt, desires obstructed, or expectations not fulfilled. In fact, when the ego is pricked, we should be thankful for being shown our place in the world. When we are unable to fulfill expectations we have from ourselves, how can we expect the same from others? No emotion is good or bad by itself. Anger is bad when it is for selfish reasons. When it is uncontrolled, it enslaves us. In such situations,